Hey
There we
guys,
go.
there we go. Yeah, hey guys, the WalterFootball.com After Dark show from May 16, 2025. We're going to be doing a breakdown of the Week 1 NFL spreads of the 2025 NFL season. And before we intro the co-host for tonight and also talk about the Week 1 spreads, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. As always, I'm wearing something from the merch store. One of my fanciest shirts. It's a navy blue Walter Football shirt. And yes, I wore these yesterday, but the shirt is so nice I had to wear it twice. This you can get it on the merch store as you see here. Again, link in the description. And you might be
Walter, is it a reversible shirt? Then you could definitely wear it twice.
it is not, but it's not a bad idea. I should
Yeah.
probably have some reversible shirts on here for me. So you might be thinking, where's this very fancy navy blue shirt? I don't see it. They're all black. You can actually change the color of any of these shirts. You can get them in hoodies, I believe, or long sleeve. Not that I hate long sleeve shirts, but you can, if that's your style, you can get it. We have our apron. We have a couple of new mugs here. There is no sale at the moment. I always say this, if there's not a sale, just wait. It'll probably appear in 2 or 3 weeks. It's probably bad business to say, but there will be a 20 to 30% off sale at some point during the summer. So you should wait unless you really want to help us out now. That would be great. You could also go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people. I saw Penn State for 6 years. I had a lot of fun writing it, so I think you guys have a lot of fun reading it. Also, please consider super chats and super stickers. That's the best way to support the show. Last night, we had a super chat from John Sanders. Once again, thank you, John, for that. We've also had Slew, Degeneron in the past, Can't Make an Eagle, Armac, Karmic, The Boss, and Evan even contributed on draft night. So, guys, it's just really appreciated. I can't say enough how much it means to me. And I'm not joking when I say this. It really keeps the show going because YouTube ads don't pay very much. Mike, very excited to see our co-host for tonight, Andy Iskoe, back from thelogicalapproach.com. Andy, how have you been the past 3 months? I haven't talked to you since the Super Bowl is over.
I've been tolerating football withdrawal, waiting for first the free agency to begin, then a few weeks later the combine, then the draft, and now, of course, last night the release of the schedule. We all knew once the regular season ends, we know who everybody's playing and where. We just don't know the sequencing of the games, and we found out last night teams. I think there are 3 teams that have 3-game road trips, and what is it? Philadelphia does not have back-to-back home games or something all year, something like that. And now at least we have an idea of how the season's going to play out, what the rough stretches, what the first few weeks should tell us about some of these teams based upon who and where they play. So it's time really to start gearing up now. And I do have a question about your merchandise. Have you figured in any impacts of the tariffs?
The prices
Are you going to advertise yourself as a tariff-free merch store?
Well, that's an interesting question. I didn't even thought of it. The prices haven't changed, so we haven't been hit by the tariffs yet. So I don't know. Maybe we won't. I have it so I make a set amount, set percentage on the site on that site. So I don't really control the prices. So I make I think 14% of the sales, which admittedly this is not very much.
That's about half of a sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. I can up the percentage, but I don't want it to be expensive. It's just it is slightly helpful, but it does help. It's more volume over just 1 or 2 sales. So
how about winning the Super Contest Gold this year, and then everyone will want a copy of the shirt?
That would be great. We'll see if I enter the Super Contest Gold. Before we begin, I mean, you were telling me that the Westgate is having some new contests this year. You're my proxy, of course. You proxy for Evan. You proxy for me, Tom and I, Tom's our Saturday co-host. You proxy for us. You proxy for me and Jacob before Jacob had to step away, unfortunately. So if you want to talk about that real quick, because I always recommend you as a proxy because you are extremely reliable and just a great guy, and I love working with you. So you want to talk about that for a second? And,
I appreciate that, and just as an introduction, and I know a lot of the online books are now offering contests, but we've been doing it here in Vegas. The Westgate, which used to be the LVH and the Superbook, the Hilton Superbook way back when, actually earlier than that, the Las Vegas International, where Elvis Presley had his residence late in his life. But the Westgate Super Contest goes back, I think, 1988, if I recall correctly, I think it was the first year, because I think that came after the second strike year of 1987. Anyway, it's a contest where you pick 5 games per week against the point spread. Point spread doesn't change when they come out on Wednesday night. They remain the same, and they pay a number of places. It's contest has been going on, and I was referencing with Walter before. They have 2 contests: regular contest and what they call a gold contest. The entry fee for the 18-week contest, it's all regular season. The regular contest is a $1,500 registration fee. That's what it had been for many years, until the Circa came along and had a similar contest, same concept, and they lowered the fee that they were going to charge to $1,000. They took away a lot of business, so the Westgate said, you know what, let's go back, increase our prize pool. We probably won't have as many entrants as Circa does, simply because of some of the other things that Circa does, some of the other contests. We'll get to that in a moment. So that's now $1,500. The conference I referenced, Walt, is a Super Contest Gold. That's a winner-take-all. Same format as the regular contest. You pick 5 games a week against a point spread, and whoever has the best record at the end of the year wins the entire pool. Last year, the pool, I think, was something along the lines of $450,000 to $500,000 for the winner-take-all. So that's those are the existing contests. They did have a contest for a few years that they called the Reboot, which was actually a contest that covered the second half of the season, weeks 10 through 18. That had a $500 entry fee. It wasn't all that popular because I didn't mention, with the regular Super Contest, they have several mini contests, so that if you have they have 6 3-week contests. So if you have a stretch during the season with the right weeks, you can get a nice little prize too, and that'll pay $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 along those lines, depending upon how long the segment is that you win. There's 6 3 weeks, 3 6 weeks, and 2 9 weeks. So the second 9 weeks is effectively the same as the Reboot was, except the Reboot had fewer contestants because it started in the middle of the season, and not as many people come to Las Vegas to sign up for that as can sign up for that over the course of the summer, when the majority of people come in. But it means you're also going against fewer people over the last 9 weeks than you are in the main contest, where everybody is automatically entered into those smaller in-season contests. So those are the existing ones. They are adding a new contest this year for college football that a lot of people have been wondering about, a $500 entry fee. You pick 7 games a week. As I recall, it runs 14 weeks, which I think is the last week in August, which I think is Labor Day weekend, because it comes early this year, through, I think, the Saturday of Thanksgiving week. And don't know what the price structure is on that one yet. And then Circa, a lot of people probably know they had the Survivor Contest, King of the Hill, Last Man Standing. They call it the Survivor Contest, where you pick 1 game a week straight up. And it's the Circa Contest, the Survivor consists of 20 weeks, the 18-week regular season, and then they split up the Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving holiday week, and the Christmas week into 2 separate weeks, where you have to make 2 picks. The only restriction is your team has to win straight up, but you can only use a team once. So theoretically, if you make it to the end, you will have chosen 20 of the 32 teams. And that's what a lot of people, in fact, I'm sure right now while we're talking, Walt, Evan is probably already taking apart the schedule and looking for teams to play in certain weeks or teams to avoid in certain weeks, because it's so important when you start getting into, because there are some teams, remember, and I haven't seen what the rules will be this year as far as those short weeks, but for example, last year you had 4 games on Thanksgiving weekend, the 3 games on Thursday, the 1 game on Friday. That counted as a separate week. So you had to pick one of the 8 teams that played Thanksgiving, Thursday, and Friday. If you were correct, you then advanced to the rest of the week, which I think was Sunday and Monday, where they had the other 12 games, and you had to make another pick there. It's a lot of fun. They had over 14,000 entries last year, so the prize pool was over $14 million. I want to say, I think it was 5 or 8 people, something along those lines, ended up splitting it. They each became millionaires as a result. It's a fun contest. The Westgate has decided to up that concept a little bit, and they are going to offer that, by the way, for Circa Survivor, that's a $1,000 entry fee. Westgate is introducing a $5,000 entry fee where, well, it's not winner take all. It's basically whoever's alive at the end. Sometimes, I don't believe they've ever had a single person end up as the only one standing at the end of the contest. I think they've had as many as I think they had 7 or 8 one year. And I think one year they had like 2 or 3. Anyway, that's the Westgate. And it sort of leads me into the Circa contest as well. 5 picks a week against the spread, 18 weeks, so you make 90 picks. That one they pay 100 places, and the winner's guaranteed $1 million, and then they break it down from that. And I think they have about 8 or 10 places that'll pay 6 figures, and then a lot going down to the end where they'll pay a few $1,000s. I was fortunate last year to cash in that contest at the nice middle of the pack there as far as that goes, so that was enjoyable. And that's the original Survivor contest that I just mentioned, 14,000 entries last year. I think the guarantee might have been 10 million last year. I'm not quite sure, but they far exceeded that. And that's what's making that the most popular contest around as far as the football contests go. And the coverage of it is nationwide, if not worldwide, that they dedicate a lot to that. And the folks on VSIN, the VSIN network, do a lot of the sports gambling information. That's been around for about 7-8 years. And they talk a lot about that contest. And they have a lot of people who are in the contest come out and talk about their selections on their Friday night show. So that's a little bit. If you want to get a hold of me to find out information about proxying and all that. Oh, let me mention the Circa contest is accepting entries beginning next Friday, the 23rd, which is the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. The Westgate starts accepting their entries July 1st. So a lot of people end up waiting to July because they're going to enter both the Circa and the Westgate, some combination of each, not necessarily one way or the other. And other people who are only going to be interested in the Circa contest, let's say, yeah, the $1,000 Survivor contest sounds great. Gives me something to root for each week. It's an easy contest. You pick one game a week straight up. Not as easy as you think, people. It's easy when you're not in the contest and you right. Say, if I were playing this week, I would pick so-and-so. Okay? Mm-hmm. When you're actually there and you've already eliminated some teams that you can't pick, which, of course, if you're not playing in, you probably don't even remember that you picked a team in week 2 and they lost. I think you would not be alive to say your hypothetical pick. But a lot of people like that, the Circa Survivor contest, and they will come in June once the registration is open. And they may end up making a second trip back, but you can drop me an email. It's I'll give you the Vegas Andy, VEGASANDY 711, Vegas Andy 711 at Cox, COX, like the Cox Communications Company, .net. So VEGASANDY 711 at COX.net. And I can, there it is right there on the screen. And I can give you all the details as far as what's involved. Basically, the structure is simple. You have to register in person in Las Vegas to sign up for the contest. Okay, whether you or a buddy of yours who's coming out here, well, I guess females come out too. So if a buddy or a budette of you come out here to Las Vegas, now the contest will be in their name, but it doesn't matter who provides the selections. You can then have a proxy, which is what I do and a lot of others have done as well, are doing as well, and they will submit the selections for you because you must be within the borders of the state of Nevada, not necessarily Las Vegas. There are many people who are up in the Reno and that area of Las Vegas who submit the selections in person. And yes, we can submit them over the Westgate or the Circa app, but once again, you have to be using that app within the confines of the state of Nevada, the borders of the state of Nevada to do that. So you do have to come out or have somebody sign up on your behalf in Nevada, and then you just submit your selections or you send your selections to the proxy, and the proxy submits them in Nevada for you.
Yeah, you want to have.
I made something very simple take 10 minutes to explain.
Well, it was very thorough. I mean, you want to have someone you trust, not only to proxy for you because you want to get the picks in, which is why I recommend
not only trust as far as that goes, but it's sort of along the same lines, but it's sort of a different kind. Reliable as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't want your proxy submitting bad picks or forgetting to do so.
Only one person got away with that who won who shared in the Survivor pick a couple of years ago, if you remember that story, Walt.
I do not. What happened?
Yeah, so I think it was a Thanksgiving Day where the proxy, I think, forgot to put the selection in that they did not hear from the contestant or something like that and put it in, but he put in the selection opposite of who his contestant wanted, and he ended up winning as a result of that, so he continued on. I forget. I'm sure if you go on the internet and you talk about the Survivor goof pays off or something like that, you'll find it's kind of an interesting story.
That's very interesting. That's funny. Yeah, so you guys, if you want to enter the contest and you don't live in Nevada, you need a proxy. So email on the screen, as Andy said, VegasAndy711 at Cox.net. It's on the screen here. And if you want to, if you forget for some reason you want to email me, I'll forward your email to Andy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the contest. Looking forward to heading out to Vegas. I have not booked my hotel yet because I had to get a replacement credit card because someone booked a cruise on my credit card. So I had to I had to dispute those charges, and now I'm waiting for a new credit card. So as soon as that comes,
how much fun! Hope it rained every day on that cruise. Unfortunately, that would affect everybody else, but it'll teach your guy right.
Oh yeah, I know. Seriously, I have 2 kids under 4. I'm not heading to a cruise anytime soon.
It is, but it's going to be like at Six Flags.
Right, exactly. If you're gonna, I don't know, if you like, just make it like not obvious. If you're gonna commit fraud like that, just like take a trip to like CVS and buy some small stuff. Like I would have never have seen that, but I was like, cruise? Like I'm not going on a cruise. I actually had to actually ask my wife. I'm like, you didn't book this for your parents, did you, or anything? So yeah, apparently I'm waiting for a new credit card. So as soon as that happens,
that is a pain. I'm assuming it happened rather recently, like within the last 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, last week. So
yeah, it takes a couple of weeks. It's annoying, but
yeah, they said it might be here. I didn't check my mail today, but it might be here. So hopefully I can do that very soon. All right, let's get to the week one.
That way, when you're out here, you can take a cruise on Lake Mead.
Exactly. Yeah. I do get a couple of days away, but that's it's for business. I have a lot of content bets to make and stuff like that. So all right, so let's get to the week one lines. We guessed the lines yesterday. Kenny and I, we were pretty close. There were a few games where we were both off the mark, and I'll highlight them. We actually had a dispute here. Actually, this.
By the way, excuse me. Yeah. Before we could, have you made any bets yet already?
Not for week one. I have made bets. I actually wanted to pick your brain once we're done this, or maybe I can do it now.
Either way.
Okay. Well, you kind of opened my eyes to something when you said last year that you had exactas on the Chiefs over Eagles and Eagles over Chiefs. There
were about I think I had 8 different combinations, and I think I got the one that had the longest odds of the ones that I played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I believe you said you picked 3 teams in the AFC and 3 teams in the NFC and bet the permutations.
I think there may have been 1 or 2 of the permutations that, for whatever reason, I did not do, but that was with a couple of teams. I think Cincinnati was one in the AFC that I didn't play every possible combination back and forth, and I think San Francisco may have been the team in the NFC.
Okay. I had a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I was trying to do this myself, and I've actually bet a high number of these, but with complete free bets online using like bonus bets or no sweat bets. I have made like about almost $600 worth of bets with these, and I have not actually wagered a single dollar on them. So
now you're talking about for this coming year already?
For this coming year, yeah.
Okay, this coming season.
Yeah, and so my first question is, so like I like your 3x3, but in the NFC, I really can't get off 4 teams. Like, so is 3x4 too much? Do you think? Like,
no, not at all.
Okay,
not at all. Considering the odds that you get generally, if you have like the 2 favorites, you're probably getting, I would imagine, a neighborhood of 25 or 30 to 1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
let's assume that the favorites are, let's say, Baltimore and Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably in the 20 to 30 to 1 range either way, and then it goes up from there. I mean, I remember last year when I had Eagles and Chiefs, I think I had Chiefs over Eagles at 35 to 1 and Eagles over Chiefs at, I think it was 58 or 59 to 1. Keep in mind, that was the year that the Eagles were coming off of that 10-1 start and their total collapse in 2023. That's why those odds were so long on Philadelphia, even though they had been 2 years earlier in the Super Bowl when they lost to the Chiefs. They followed that year up, remember, with the new offensive and defensive coordinators. In fact, I was doing a podcast the other day, and we were talking about that because some of the teams like Detroit who were going through along those situations. But if you remember, it wasn't the 2 new coordinators because they started off 10-1. It was whatever it was internally with Jalen Hurts, whatever it was their collapse down the stretch. It had nothing to do, or very, very little to do, you would think, with the 2 new coordinators. So maybe that was, something that was overblown, and people who point to that need to recall that they seem to play well with those new coordinators for the first 11 weeks.
Yeah. So I put up the exactas here on DraftKings. So you mentioned Eagles and Ravens. So Eagles to beat the Ravens is 30-1, and Ravens to beat the Eagles is the same thing, 30-1.
Yeah, and those I imagine that those are probably the favorites. Maybe Kansas City is still up there.
Yeah, these six. Eagles to beat the Ravens, Chiefs to beat the Eagles, Bills to beat the Eagles, Ravens to beat the Eagles, Eagles to beat the Chiefs, and Eagles to beat the Bills are all 30-1, and we have some 45-1s. So
yeah, so 4x3 is not what's that, 24 combinations, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, it's 24. So I mean, three in the AFC I think are very obvious. The Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills. But in the NFC, I think it's more open. And I can't get all four teams. Like I love four teams in the NFC, and I can't like.
Let me see if I can figure them out.
Okay, well, one is like completely off the wall. Which
okay, let me think. Well, I don't know off the wall. What division is it in?
The off the wall team, NFC North.
Yeah, NFC North.
Yeah. It's not bad off the wall.
I don't think it's Green Bay.
No.
I don't think it's Detroit.
Nope.
I'm gonna go with Chicago.
Not Chicago. No.
Minnesota.
It's Minnesota. Yeah.
I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you because it ties into Week 1. Because I happen to like Chicago in Week 1 over Minnesota.
Really?
Because in effect, McCarthy is effectively a rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams now has a year of experience, so that's an edge early.
Yeah.
Number 2, Ben Johnson, the coach of the Bears, knows the Vikings really well. Okay, obviously facing them several times in the last few years. On the other hand, Minnesota's coach does not know what Johnson is going to do with the new team that he has as far as the offense is concerned. And I think that's early on, that's a big advantage early in the season for the Chicago Bears. I also think the Chicago Bears perhaps upgraded their overall roster as well as any team in the NFC did during the offseason.
I love what they did with
including coaching.
Line. Yeah, yes. I love what they did with their offensive line. I do worry week 1 with the rookie coach, and you do make some good points, but generally, first year coaches or rookie quarterbacks tend to not do well. And you did bring up.
Well, he's not a rookie quarterback though.
Yeah. Well, no, I meant in general, like rookie quarterbacks and first year coaches don't do well in week 1, and if you combine the two, they are usually horrendous. But you do make good points about the Vikings not knowing what Ben Johnson's going to do, but then again, it's Ben Johnson's first game as a head coach, so there will be some growing pains, I imagine. I was personally leaning toward the Vikings. I don't know if I was going to play the game. I love the Vikings this year. What Chicago did with this offensive line, you can say the same thing with Minnesota. They brought in 2 guys from the Colts. They drafted a 3rd guy, so they basically added 3 interior linemen to the roster. They were 14-3 last year. I love their coaching. Their defensive line has improved, and JJ McCarthy is a question mark, but he is Kevin O'Connell's handpicked guy, and Kevin O'Connell knows a lot about offense. I mean, he got Sam Darnold to play at a Pro Bowl level, and I don't think that was Darnold last year. I think that was Kevin O'Connell. And everything else. So I really like the Vikings this year. They're 40-1. They were 40-1 to win the Super Bowl, and I bet them to win the Super Bowl. So
I actually did I do a podcast with I've been doing it with Mark Lawrence, Jim Feist, a couple of really long time, well-known handicappers and bettors out here. Jim is from out here. He's actually from the Pennsylvania area. Mark is from Cleveland and has been down in Florida, but they come out here a lot. But we actually went through who we thought are 14, or the way too early 14 teams to make the playoffs. And I think I had Green Bay winning the NFC North, and I was debating going back and forth between Minnesota and Chicago for getting a wild card. And I changed. I initially said Minnesota, and then I went with Chicago, simply because I think that we don't know what we're getting out of McCarthy at quarterback, and we have to believe that Williams, who showed a lot of potential last year at times, will show improvement on that, especially with more than he had around him last year to a great extent. So I like Minnesota. I just like Chicago a little bit better. But would I be surprised? Let me put it this way. I think I would be more surprised if Chicago won the division than if Minnesota won the division.
Yeah,
Having
I've
said
heard the
all
same.
that,
Like, yeah,
but I think the upside for Chicago is very good. And if McCarthy turns out to be, what was he, a number 7 pick, I think, overall last year, something along those lines in the
I
2024
no,
draft.
I think he was 10, I believe.
So yeah, somewhere's maybe in the latter part of the top 10,
Yeah,
but nonetheless, yeah, I think maybe it was Bo Nix. Was it Bo Nix who was number 7, maybe,
it was Penix was
or
8.
Penix? Maybe it was
Penix was
Penix up
8.
there.
Yeah, Nix was 12. I think I want to say 12 because Bowers was 11, and
Yeah,
I think McCarthy was 10 because the Vikings and Jets flipped one pick.
yeah. If
Yeah,
if he turns out to have justified that high of a pick, then um, Minnesota can win the. I think the AFC West. First of all, the AFC West has 4 Hall of Fame coaches. If you assume that Harbaugh's got an opportunity to get in there at some point,
yeah,
and probably join his brother, who should be in there as well after his coaching career is over, and you got Pete Carroll and Sean Payton, and who am I leaving out there? Andy Reid, of course.
yeah, yeah.
I think the 3 of those are, you know, Andy Reid should get in on his first opportunity because of not only what he did in Kansas City, but what he did with Philadelphia for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete Carroll, of course, he had a Super Bowl win with Seattle. And who am I leaving out now? I'm leaving out not Harbaugh, but Peyton.
Ron
With
Payton.
he still had the best play call in the history of the Super Bowl. That can never be topped, and in fact, it can't ever be duplicated because now you have to declare an onside kick in the fourth quarter unless they decide to eliminate that rule, which is one of the dumbest rules in football.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we're going to run a sweep to the left on first down. That's basically what you're saying. You're just doing it before the kick. I mean, whoever thought of that rule and was able to convince people to get a pass has a good career as a stand-up comic. But
Yes.
Nonetheless, I think the NFC North will be very contentious, because I think Detroit still has talent. And if they're healthy defensively, they were a pretty good team. Although again, how much will they miss Aaron Glenn? And at the same time, I think the AFC West will be very competitive because when the Raiders hired Pete Carroll, who I think I said even when you and I were talking at the end of the regular season, and that the coaching change was going to be made, that Pete Carroll would be an excellent addition for the Raiders. And the fact that they got Geno Smith, and of course there's a little history there as well, but a proven quarterback rather than the poor situation that they were in. And in fact, we can talk about as we go through week 1. Maybe I'll throw some comments in about what I think about some of these teams.
Okay. Yeah. The other question, real fast, is do you do this for other sports or just NFL?
You mean the exacta?
Exactas, yeah. Because
I haven't really seen it too much for the other sports until we get towards the playoffs. I think more and more properties are. I think we may have had circuit. I didn't check it for the NBA because I didn't really follow as much in the preseason of the NBA because at that time of the year, I'm so focused on football, college and pro football by the time that the NBA season starts. One of the reasons why I can do it for the NFL is because by the time we start getting to training camps, my involvement in handicapping baseball is relatively, I'm not going to say automatic, but I have a really good idea of the teams, the pitchers, the lineups, the injuries, etc. So I don't have to spend as much on a day-to-day basis handicapping the 15 games that will be played on all days except generally Mondays and Thursdays. As a result, I have even much more time to get ready for both the NFL and college football, and so that's where I can take a look. And of course, I'm always at these places where I can make the bets in person because I'm always meeting with people to sign up for the contest. So I'm basically at a sports book often twice a day.
Yeah, FanDuel has these for baseball, for example. I was looking at like Dodgers beat the Tigers 21-1. The odds aren't as great here because the season, has started. I suppose maybe you should do this before the season, but I was just curious if you did this for basketball, baseball.
No, I don't do it even for baseball.
Okay.
It's 162 game schedules. That's a lot, and I mean the Dodgers are playing as expected, but I still think they're falling short on a pace analysis of their projected wins.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we can talk about that in the future. Let's
Sure.
get to some week 1 games here. The first one, Thursday night, Cowboys at the Eagles. This line is 6.5. We had a dispute on the show yesterday when we were guessing the lines. I thought this would be 7. My co-host thought it would be like 4.5. So, he was kind of shocked to see the spread. We had a comment here. Cassandra says Dallas line was +7. I liked it a lot. I'm not like eager to bet either side. I think this is a pretty fair line. Where do you come in on this?
I might have made it 7.5.
Okay.
Because I still think Philadelphia is a much better team than Dallas. But I think that hook would get a lot of people to take the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not thrilled with anything that Dallas did. I did not really care for the coaching hire.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know the durability, although it may in week 1 as far as the health of Dak Prescott. Who knows with Pickett what that's going to be? If that's going to be, it may not be an issue early in the season, so like week 1, it may not have any impact. But I just don't like a lot of the moves that Dallas did or did not make. Actually, Philadelphia continues to they draft well. They make key decisions. I like that roster, especially a lot of the young guys. I mean, DeJean had that great play in the Super Bowl. He's an up and comer. The defensive line and the offensive lines. The offensive line may be the best in football. And I say may because it's probably 90% certain that it is, at least according to most observers. And, of course, the defense has been solid. Will they have a Super Bowl hangover initially? I don't know because they really play so well for Sirianni, who overcame that stretch at the end of the 2023 season. And we saw how well they played the rest of the season. I think the players believe in him. And, hey, going to the Super Bowl twice in 3 years, in your first 3 years as coaching, I think it was. This will be his 4th year, I believe, isn't it, Walter? Sirianni?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it's 4th year.
Yeah, so he's made the Super Bowl twice in three seasons. He's won 1, lost 1, and both of them. Well, the first Super Bowl loss was an exciting game. The second one not as close as that final score. One was 40-6 late in the fourth quarter, and they scored 2 late touchdowns and 2-point conversions to make the score look respectable to a certain extent, and help those who played some of the higher totals over the total to cash those tickets at the plus odds. Over 56.5, 62.5, whatever they may have played it at. 62.5 wouldn't have done it, but 61.5 would. Nonetheless. I don't know if I would play the game. Well, at 6.5, I would certainly consider Philadelphia, but it's way too early. And if I do play the game, I seriously doubt that it would be any time before the middle of August.
Yeah, same here. There's no reason to bet this now. It's not like there's amazing value and it's going to be bet up or down.
The reason for Philadelphia would be more of a psychological reason. That they may not be as sharp as they might. Maybe they were eating too much, stuff in the off season and all that.
Right.
For Dallas, it's more of a fundamental reason. You got Micah Parsons and end of sentence.
Yes, and his contract is a worry because he's. We'll see. I mean, look, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, it's only the middle of May. Like something can get done. If this is like end of August and he still hasn't signed, then I'm like, okay, he may not play week 1, but. It is too early to say that. Eagles have outscored Dallas 77-13 in the last 2 games. That was Cooper Rush. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but I'm not a big Dak Prescott guy anyway, and I hated the Schottenheimer hire. I thought that was ridiculous what they did.
I thought they should have gone for a more experienced coach.
Oh, absolutely.
No, more experienced. That's almost anybody. A coach with decent head coaching experience.
Yes, and I think they wanted Belichick, but he wanted to make the decisions, and Jerry Jones obviously would never relinquish that. And I think Jerry Jones should probably kind of step aside.
If he didn't go to the Raiders, I thought Pete Carroll would have been a good hire.
Yeah, that would have been a good one. Yeah, I agree. Well, anyone would have looked great compared to Schottenheimer. Let's be honest.
Maybe he'll prove us wrong, but you've got to be skeptical right now.
Yeah,
I mean, the talent I don't know where you rate Dallas's talent. I mean, Philadelphia clearly has more, and you could argue that Washington may even have more talent right now. So then it comes down to the Giants versus the Cowboys as to who has the better roster. And the Giants actually have some decent defensive line play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cowboys. They're very top heavy. They have a few great players, and they don't have that much depth. Their blocking kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I don't trust the run defense, and the Eagles run the ball as well as any team in the NFL. So that's just a big advantage for Philadelphia. I said, the line is pretty close to what I think it should be. Like I said, it's 6.5 minus 120, so it's pretty close to 7. So and used to 7.5, so we're in agreement there. Yeah.
I thought 7 was a good number because that'll draw two-way action. Because I think once it goes to 6.5, money will come in on Philly. Once it goes to 7.5, I think you'll see money come in on Dallas. Because that number 7 has such a psychological factor as far as attracting actions, especially if the game opens 7.
Yeah, I agree. 7 would see action both ways. John says I was shocked Kellen Moore wasn't the higher. Yeah, I was. I thought that they would go that way as well.
Especially with his familiarity.
Yeah, I thought maybe Jerry Jones had just bad thoughts about what happened with Jason Garrett, because he was in the same situation, the offensive coordinator, and they made him the coach. And Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator, so I don't know. Maybe that's why he didn't do it. But either way, he made the wrong decision, or at least it seems that way. We'll see.
What was Schottenheimer's position last year?
Well, he was offensive coordinator, but he was not calling the plays. Mike McCarthy was calling the plays. In fact, Schottenheimer has called plays for only one top 10 offense in his entire career, which is very lengthy. And he's had other top 10s.
Who was that, by the way?
It was with Seattle with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. So
because I know it wasn't the Jets.
No, not with whoever he had at quarterback.
They may have had a top 30 offense out of 32.
Yeah.
But that's debatable. I'd have to go. I couldn't say for sure because they had whoever did their. They've not drafted very well over the last few years.
No, they haven't. Let's get to the Friday game. This is in Brazil. Hopefully we don't have another NFL on ice game where everyone's slipping around. I hope they took care of the field this time. That was ridiculous. This is a game where both Kenny, the co-host from last night, we were way off on this spread. I guessed 4.5, Chiefs minus 4.5. I think he said 5.5, if I remember correctly. And this is only 2. I
probably would have said 3.5.
Okay, yeah. So we're all over 3. I'm shocked by this, and we actually had some comments when I said you would be on the show. We had some comments saying like, ask Andy why the spread is so low. So Andy, why is the spread so low?
I think the age of Kansas City. Harbaugh's had a year in the league to understand all the opponents, especially the division rivals. You have to wonder what's the situation with Kelsey. Even if he comes back, is he going to be? We saw his play decline last year. You have to wonder about the running game, the defense getting a little bit older. Although Spagnuolo's still there, he gets older, but he doesn't play on the field. But he's just such a great coordinator. And I think the Chargers are an up and coming team. I think they filled in some needs that they didn't address last year, or that they didn't have last year. I like the running back coming over from Pittsburgh. I like I had the Chargers last year as a wild card team because I am a big believer in Jim Harbaugh, and I figured he's had early success and sustained success to a great extent everywhere he's been, going back to his days at the University of San Diego, which I think was the one that landed him the Stanford job before he went to the 49ers, etc. Then to Michigan, and now back to the NFL. So I think that may be the reason why Kansas City is such a relatively small favorite. I mean, I'm surprised. They're almost begging you to take Kansas City. It is a neutral field, but you're talking about the 3-time defending AFC champions with a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback in Mahomes, who is not yet even at the peak of his career. He's still got a couple of years before he reaches that peak, especially the length of time that the quarterbacks have been playing over the last couple of decades. That I would have thought that if they weren't going to make it a higher number, Kansas City minus 3 would have been a very good number, because I think a lot of people do like the Chargers. And I also think a lot of people respect the pedigree of Kansas City. I mean, keep in mind, and I don't know how much this has been focused on, you're down 40-6 in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You got no chance of winning the game. And yet you're out there still playing. Remember, I think it was after the kickoff, they threw that long touchdown pass to, who was it? The rookie receiver?
Worthy.
Yeah, Worthy. The 60-yard pass, whatever it was. And then they don't get the onside kick, and Philadelphia was 3 and out. So that made it 40-12, then 40-14, and then they scored again. I mean, that shows a little bit of character. The team totally distraught. We're not only not going to win the Super Bowl, we're getting blown out. We're still going to play hard. Now, Philadelphia may have relaxed a little bit, understandably, but it would have been easy for Kansas City to just run the clock out and get the heck out of there. So I mean that shows me a lot of character, and I think that also shows you why you could not, even up until the Super Bowl, you could never count Kansas City out. I think that's a mental attitude that they have, and I think that serves them well. So I think they're going to draw a lot of support. Do I think they're going to win the AFC West this year? Probably. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't, but I do think that the gap between them and the second place team will be narrower than it's been the last several years.
Do you think it's not 3 or 3.5 because that would invite a lot of sharp money on the Chargers?
They may get a lot of sharp money on the Chargers anyway if it goes to 3.
Yeah, I think so. Just based on how the Chiefs played last year, where they would barely win games. Like, they would not even cover 3-point spreads. They win by
and keep in mind, by the way, they've got, now that the schedule is out, you've got what? May, June, July. You got almost 4 full months to prepare for one foe.
Yep. And Andy Reid, week 1 is amazing. Yep. So, he's one of those coaches. There are a handful of them who just are so good week 1. Fortunately, we lost one of them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we lost one of them with Belichick, who's now at UNC.
Okay. Well, you're going to say that Andy Reid's the anti-Zach Taylor.
Yes.
We were talking about that, I think, before we started recording.
We did.
Cincinnati is difficult to play in September.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Bengals game. It's a very interesting one. All right, so next game is Giants, the Redskins. This line is 7. I think I was either on the money or on this end, or a half point off. I think this is an interesting spot for Washington because on Thursday
now they're the hunted, not the hunter.
Yeah, and on Thursday after this game they played the Packers. So this is sort of the same situation the Bengals were in last year. They didn't have a Thursday game, but they were playing the Chiefs in week 2. They were a complete no-show. Everyone's going to expect. Everyone loves the Redskins. I'm.
By the way, the thing with the Bengals last year, they've been a no-show in September, so I can't really use that as an example to illustrate any other game because of Cincinnati's historical ineptitude opening the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been awful. So we'll see if the Redskins get tripped up here, but this is a clear look ahead. I think everyone's going to be betting them. I'm guilty.
Yeah, you know what? I think it would be a look ahead, but for the fact that it's a divisional home game, and you really can't afford to lose divisional home games. Covering is a different story, but if this were the New York Jets, I could understand it. But it's the New York Giants. It's there's a 2-game swing in the division.
Yeah. That's true. Although I wouldn't expect the Giants to be competitive in the division. So you are right. So are you looking to bet Washington here, or what do you think about the game?
If I do something with Washington, and you have to believe they had a bad taste in there. In fact, one of the reasons I thought that I would have liked to have seen Philadelphia play Washington on that opening Thursday night game.
Yeah.
My thinking is that the NFL said, gee, the last time these teams met in the playoffs, it was an embarrassing game for the Washingtons because they just got blown away. And I think the network was a little concerned that might happen again. Yeah, well, you got to take a look at it. Washington's will have lived with that embarrassment for 8 or 9 months. Mm-hmm. They were a young team. They made some nice additions offseason, especially in the receiving core. I think that that would have been, there's no way of knowing because we're only going to get to see Philadelphia, Dallas. But I would say that Washington would have been able to give Philadelphia a more competitive game than Dallas might. But
I personally thought it was going to be Detroit at Philadelphia because
I could have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, they like to save those divisional games to the end, and this was supposed to be the NFC Championship. Didn't quite work out that way, but I thought it was gonna be that. I was shocked to see Dallas and Philadelphia.
What I was gonna say as far as this game goes, I will probably use Washington in if the line's 7, like a 6-point teaser.
Okay, makes sense.
Basically, get them down to a -1.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might be on the Giants. I'm not sure. I don't love them though. I really like the Redskins this year. They're one of my 4 teams in the NFC. I don't know if you want to guess the others, but
what you mean division winner or the other teams? Yeah, no, I could understand Washington. I think Washington is going to be a team in the NFC, much like I think the Chargers could be the team in the AFC.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, as far as other than the usual suspects. Like, yeah, it's easy to make a case. Yeah, Buffalo will be popular, Baltimore will be popular, Kansas City still will be popular. In the NFC, Philadelphia will be popular. San Francisco will probably be popular because of their pedigree and the injuries that they had last year. So, but yeah, Washington as an up and comer, I think will be popular, but I don't think they will be the most popular. I think I don't know how you measure it, but I think Philadelphia will probably still be the most popular team in the NFC. But Washington certainly. What are their odds? Have you got their Super Bowl odds?
I bet them at 22-1, but they are now like 19 or 18-1.
I think anything over 16-1 is probably decent.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I got a great number at 22-1. I initially actually bet them 20-1 and went to 22-1. I'm like, I really like this team, so I bet a little bit more on it. And then when they traded for Tunsil, that line plummeted to like 16, and it kind of corrected to like 18 or 19-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're on with me with the Redskins.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the Vikings and Washington, they're two of my four teams in the NFC in that 3x4. So
I had Washington finishing second in the NFC East to Philly. No great surprise there, but I did have them as when I did that exercise. I'm trying to find out where I put the entire list here so I can go over them with you as we come to them. But I did have Washington as one of the 3 wild cards.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Let's get to the next game. Panthers at the Jaguars. This line is Jaguars -2.5 at -115. So not quite 3. I was off on this. I thought this line would be 3.5. I suspect that people might remember Carolina's close games last year. And I've been saying this a lot. I think that was such a fluke. Like, they caught 3 teams just not playing their A game. Yeah, at the right time, not playing their A game at all. The Eagles were a complete no-show in that game, and they still won. Like, it's crazy that people remember those 3 games: the Chiefs game, the Eagles game, and the first Tampa game, where Carolina played very well. It's funny though that they didn't win any of those 3 games, despite those 3 teams just being a no-show. I think the Jaguars are underrated personally. I don't love them. I'm not betting to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I think they're an interesting team to win the division if their odds are good enough. Trevor Lawrence has not finished the past 2 years. I think he's probably healthy now. They have Travis Hunter, and they have a new coach in Liam Cohen. I think that's going to be an upgrade. I never liked Doug Peterson, so I would lean for Jacksonville here, especially with the hot weather in Florida. I'm sure they'll be wearing their white jerseys, so that's definitely an advantage that they would have here. So who do you like in this game?
One of the things we did, and I'm still trying to find where I put it, and it'll come up somewhere before the end of the show, I'm pretty sure, because I put notes everywhere. I just got to remember where they're organized. But Jacksonville, what I did when we went through the 14 teams to make the playoffs, I also picked one team in each division that I thought would either be much improved or would be declined. And in the AFC South, I took Houston to win the division. I still think they've got the best record. I said Jacksonville, I think, is in for a good season. I liked a lot of the moves they made, including at coaching. They've given Lawrence some weapons. And, of course, if he can stay healthy, he might be able to display at least getting closer to the talent that a lot of people forecast for him coming out of Clemson.
Yeah,
so in this game, by the way, I haven't done it yet, and I may want to do it quickly because I could see this line going to 3. I think Jacksonville is going to get a fair amount of hype over the summer.
I think so too. I think it could go to 3. It's unfortunately it's -2.5, -115, but and as John's saying, the bigs are out of control, which is true. Yeah, you never want to pay more than -110 unless you're just buying like a key number. And I don't think you would really need to here. But I always say this: just shop around. There are so many sports books online. Just try to find the best number. We have promos for all of them. It's on the homepage, but. I'm glad we're in agreement here. By the way, you said you did that show with Mark Lawrence and Jim Feist. Is that where can we listen to it?
That is on. If you go to Proline TV.
Proline TV
on YouTube. Proline TV.
Okay.
I did a thing with Jim. Like I think we're going to do tomorrow morning. We're going to take a look at the weekend in Major League Baseball. We'll do some updates. We've been doing the NBA. I think Jim today. I couldn't make it. I had one of those issues, check engine issues this morning or last night. So I had to deal with that today. And so Jim, I think, was going to do the WNBA, which season gets underway tomorrow. By the way, for the people who do bet the WNBA, and there are a lot of them out there, because it is a handicapable sport, keep in mind that what's that?
Our co-host on Saturday does. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, keep in mind especially as we get towards summer, the WNBA plays a lot of daytime games during the week.
Okay.
It's not like the NBA where weekday games are, 7 o'clock or later local time. WNBA will play, well, they'd be like about 1 or noon or 1 o'clock Pacific, which would be 3, 4 p.m., maybe even a little bit earlier on some days. That's one thing to keep in mind because they do it with regularity, and you don't want all of a sudden take a look at the schedule and realize that the game started 35 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's very tilting. Actually, I've been doing home run prop bets, and that happened to me because obviously there's daytime baseball. I'm like, I really like this guy to hit a home run. I'm trying to find him. I'm like, why can't I bet this guy? Where is he? And then it's like, oh, this game started already. So yeah, I definitely hear that. John saying, asking, do you guys think over under win totals are the best way to determine strength of schedule?
I say yes. And they sort of alluded to it on the show last night, or maybe it was Good Morning Football. I forget where it was because I enjoy those shows. The old way of doing it and the way the NFL does it is you take a look at the combined win-loss records of the teams you're playing this year, what their records were last year, which doesn't really mean anything. I much rather go with where there is money involved, and that's when the sportsbook put up the win-loss numbers for the teams for this year and do your schedule against that. Like they were talking about, teams in the NFC East and the NFC North having the toughest schedules. Well, of course, based on last year, you had two 14-win teams in the North with Minnesota, Detroit, and then you had Green Bay, I think 10 or 11 wins, and in the East, you had 3 teams also make the playoffs with Washington, Washington, Philadelphia. Yeah, so you had those 2 teams make it with nice records. So if you look at I think it's and again we know that a lot of or quite a number of this season's total wins are going to be off by 2-3 wins. We don't know who they are right now, but they're still a better gauge because they're based upon this year's expected rosters going into the season, the scheduling dynamics involved. Although some of these win-loss totals were put out knowing the schedule, but knowing the teams that teams were going to play, but not the sequencing that we learned yesterday. So, yes, I think that if you're going to use strength of schedule, I would actually. I like to use both of them as far as an analysis goes because the public who doesn't want to do the work or look for it will be looking at strength of schedule based upon what the NFL puts out based on last year. I'd much rather know what the strength of schedule is based upon the teams this year and what their win-loss numbers are because those are the ones that you can bet money on right now and will be different. And then I take a look for the differences between, this team is perceived as playing a tough schedule this year based on last year, when in fact, if you use this year's strength of schedule based upon this year's wins-losses, it may end up being a fairly easy schedule. And so the public at large will say, this team's have a tough schedule. I'm going to bet against them. When in fact, it's an easier schedule. I'm going to bet them over.
Yeah, and it would take more work, but you could also just do power rankings yourself or group them the teams into tiers like I do. Yeah, I know you do that as well. And you can say you group them A to F. You're like, this team plays only one A team and 6 F or 3 or 4 F teams, and so they have an easier schedule. So that's another way to do it. Obviously, you're going to be wrong on some teams, but you can only guess.
The only problem with the A through F situation is that there's subjectivity involved as to where do you. I mean, maybe you and I had the discussion late last year about a team that you may have A and I had a B or vice versa or something based upon different things we looked at. Here we're looking at the numbers that these teams are looking to beat as far as strength of schedule goes.
Right.
So the subjectivity involved is the subjectivity in establishing the win totals for the teams. And then it's just a matter of, do you think that the schedule is easier or weaker compared to what this team did last year against a different schedule, of course. Did they exceed or fall short? So, yeah, your way is just as fine as far as grouping them all together. And, yes, that's exactly right. I do want to take a look at if I actually use ABC. Okay. And of course, these teams fall into the categories. It takes about 6 or 7 games to firmly establish. My categories are very simple. A team who I think's record at a time at the end of the season, I get much more of an accurate assessment because they will all have played the same or an 18-game schedule. I think teams that are more than 2 games above 500 are an A. I think within 2 games of 500 are a B, and more than 2 games below 500. More than 2 games below 500. Maybe it's more than 2 games below 500 or more than 2 games. I keep bumbling around because I don't have it in front of me, but that would be my C team.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like there are multiple ways to do this. So yeah, it's obviously there's going to be some flaws in any fashion, but like including the win totals, some win totals are just going to be way off. So yeah, so I think like as long as you're smart about it and doing some work on it and not being
The
lazy.
thing is also, if you're using a system to do that, you have to apply everything consistently.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't make an exception. Oh, gee, this number doesn't, this team doesn't belong in here, but the number says it does. If that's right, if you're using numbers to put teams in a category, now, yeah, the team could have a certain number because of the strength of schedule it played, but still, you have to apply whatever you should apply, whatever you do. There's the art and the science. Mm-hmm. The science is how you apply the factors that you use. Apply them consistently, whether it be wins, losses, point differential, whatever. The art is the interpretation. And that's when you come and you say, well, this team shows up as a B team, but they're really a C team because of these factors that are not included in how the ranking is determined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get back to the games here. I think the Steelers have a big edge in this game. Steelers at the Jets. The Steelers are -3. And I say the big advantage being this is one of the teams that has a new coach and a new quarterback. These teams are often horrible. I think they have like a covering rate of like 25 to 30% in week one. They were 1-3 last year. The only team that covered, I don't know if you want to guess, but it was New England. It was New England, yes, because the Bengals were a no-show. The other three teams that were not competitive. The Redskins got smoked at Tampa, and then they ended up beating Tampa in the playoffs. But that just goes to show how tough it is for these teams. And I say the big advantage here is Mike Tomlin versus his former quarterback. I feel like he knows Justin Fields pretty well. And the Steelers have a great defense. Tomlin's a great coach. He's another one of these coaches with time to prepare. You saw last year the Steelers went into Atlanta and destroyed the Falcons week one. I think the Steelers have a big edge here. As I said, I like them -3.
Who's starting at quarterback for the Steelers?
Aaron Rodgers, I think, maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Well, the Jets have a little bit of knowledge of him, even though it's different coaching staff.
Different coaching staff. I think that's a little different. And this could be an Aaron Rodgers revenge game. So he'll be motivated, I think. So what do you think about this game?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to make a case for the Jets because Pittsburgh is the team in the AFC North that I'm negative on this year. Okay. Yeah, and I do agree. In fact, we're seeing it on the screen now. Yeah, Tomlin will know how to defend Fields because he knows what. No, I talked about this, I think, in one of the other shows. Is that he got pulled not because of his record, but because Russell Wilson was ready. Mm-hmm. What were they, 4-2 with Fields?
Yeah, and
he adds the running dimension, which is something that Russell Wilson used to be okay at. So I think there's a little bit of a "I'll show you" aspect to Justin Fields in this game as well. So whether that'll translate, plus I think Pittsburgh is an aging team in many areas. They got rid of Pickett. For whatever the antics were, that's still a talent that they got rid of, and they're going to have to now have a new quarterback throwing to him. Mm-hmm. Whoever the replacement is, and is it going to be Aaron Rodgers or is it going to be Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, Rudolph, in fairness, did get them to the playoffs 2 years ago, so I don't think he's that bad. I think he's a fine game manager. He's never going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but
I don't think I could play this game at 3 either way. There's too many uncertainties. I like what the Jets have done. I like their running game from last year. I like some of the receivers they have. I like the fact that they have at least an experienced quarterback who can also add to the running game, which makes the regular running game that much more effective. I like the Jets' defense. I like Pittsburgh's defense, but just too many questions. And again, we don't have to play every game, and this will probably be one. Now, at +3.5, I might take the Jets. I mean, I remember last year on Monday night going up against Buffalo. Was it Buffalo last year, or was it 2 years ago when they went in overtime? Was that the Aaron Rodgers game 2 years ago, opening night? The Monday night game?
He played 4 snaps, and he.
Yeah, and that was it. And that was the game I think they won. So, I like Aaron Glenn. I like the staff he's putting together. But again, they don't play the game. They just prepare. And yes, I would have to give Pittsburgh and Tomlin a huge edge in preparation.
Yeah, I think so too. I just worry this line's going to go to 3.5, so that's why I was considering betting this at 3 now. I don't necessarily see this going to 2.5, or I mean, maybe it could, but I think it's more likely it goes to 3.5.
Yeah, I think it goes to 3.5 before underdog players come in.
Yeah, I think I may bet this one. So, all right, next game, Raiders at the Patriots. This is another game where we have a new head coach, new quarterback, Pete Carroll coaching the Raiders first time, and Geno Smith quarterbacking the Raiders. So an advantage for the Patriots, I guess, but the Patriots aren't a good team. You know, do you want to lay 2.5 with one of the worst teams in the NFL?
I think these teams are going to have very similar seasons. I think they may struggle early and show improvement steadily throughout the course of the season, because I like what both teams have done in the offseason. I think I like Genty coming in for the Raiders. I like the quarterback, Geno Smith, better than the O'Connell that they had last year. I like, obviously, Pete Carroll coming in. He's got, he knows how to win football games, and also likes to use the running game, as he had with Marshawn Lynch up in Seattle, where he used him brilliantly, except for one play when he didn't use him. Against, ironically, the team he's facing this week with a different coach. But and I like what New England did. I like what Vrabel has done as far as putting together an offensive line and a defensive front as well. So I think both of these teams may struggle straight up early, but I would say both of these teams will have winning point spread records for the games played in October, November, because I think they'll be both improved.
Okay.
I don't know that I could. I don't know that I could play this game. I'd have to take a look and see how there's so many changes on both teams, and you can't always gauge that much from preseason games. But I'd like to see how these teams go through training camp. Maybe I can find an edge.
Yeah,
I mean, right now I'd have to well, again, you don't know how much Geno Smith has. He's got much more experience, but and he's got a experienced coach. Right now at the stage of their careers, as far as who would I rather have for 17 games, probably Drake May.
Yeah, there's so many people who just went crazy about the Geno Smith trade. Like some people are calling him a top 10 quarterback. I'm like, you people are insane. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. I was like, he's not even top 20. I think I had 22nd in the NFL. I was like, what are you guys talking about? So I wish the Patriots were like -1, because I said this on the show yesterday, but Mike Vrabel, like, I think he's a history buff, because all of his final scores are always like a war. They're like 18-12 or 7-16 or 12-11. Like, it seems like that's his final result every time. And so, the games landing on 1 and 2 don't happen that often, but with him, I feel like they happen way more often than you'd think. So, there you go.
I'm just getting a little text in here. I have to reply to.
Okay, yeah, the 2.5, I worry about it. I would rather maybe play the money line, but -156. That sucks too. So. I don't know. Maybe we can find. Maybe the sun will drop. Maybe the sharps or something.
What did you say? -156.
The money line for the Patriots.
Yeah, maybe you can find a better sports book.
Yeah.
That's what's the take back on the other side?
+132.
That's a 24-cent line. You can do better than that.
Yeah, well, it's FanDuel. Yeah. What do you?
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're better with the futures. FanDuel is great futures, but. These lines are very off. So anyway, let's get to the next game. Cardinals at the Saints. Cardinals are -4.5. So a lot of negativity for the Saints, I think.
Understandably so.
Yeah, I think stemming from Derek Carr's retirement, even though he was not expected to play in this game anyway. I think people finally realized that the Saints aren't good, which is very devastating to me, because I made a killing betting the Saints under every single year. So we won't be able to do that this year, because they're probably going to have the lowest number, which it still might hit actually. So I can't lay 4.5 with Arizona on the road. I don't think they're that good. But then again, the Saints might be another one of those new coach, new quarterback, if Tyler Shuck wins the job over Spencer Rattler, the Silver Snake Rattler. I don't know if this is Rattler. I think I might have some interest in the Saints, but otherwise I would stay away. What do you think?
Yeah, no, my first thought was, if I can find a reason to tease New Orleans up to 10.5, maybe I'd go that way, because I don't think Arizona is justified being. I think a field goal might be a bit of a stretch on the road opening day, playing on turf. No, yeah. I mean, I think Arizona has not gotten in the last couple of years as much out of the talent that they had that they should have. Not that it was great talent, but
Yeah.
I think they should have been better.
Yeah, just Kyler Murray just doesn't really get it done for me. He makes some exciting plays. He has some great games here and
For
there.
both teams.
Yeah, yeah, he has some great games here and there, but it's like
Yeah.
generally he's pretty underwhelming.
And Harrison, I don't think has really lived up to his. And
No,
that maybe that's got to do with coaching and play calling.
it could be, but he didn't show that much separation last year, and you kind of have to wonder. He didn't test, he didn't run the 40 at all before before the draft, so maybe that was by design. Anyway, I'm not too much interest in this game. I like this game a lot more. Given the matchup, might be people might think like really, but it's Bengals at the Browns. Bengals are -5.5. We talked about the Bengals slow starts.
We talked about, I think before we started recording, I think you and I were talking about the history of, we said, I think the line I used was Cincinnati wishes the season would begin October 1st.
Yeah,
It's been horrible in September.
They're awful in September, particularly the first 2 weeks of the season. Week 3, they kind of sometimes start getting going, but they're so bad weeks 1 and 2, and they have a horrible history in Cleveland, Joe Burrow specifically. Like, I don't know how many wins he has in Cleveland, but it's a very low number. So I think everyone's down on the Browns, but as long as Flacco's playing, they'll have a professional quarterback. I don't want this to be Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. If it's Shedeur Sanders
and maybe, a much better defense.
Yeah, much better defense. Cincinnati, probably, I don't know where you come in on their defense, but I think the worst defense in the NFL. And you know what? Everyone loves their offense. I don't know if people who love their offense have looked at their offensive line. Like, their guards are horrible. So I don't know if they're going to be able to block the Browns. So I think Cleveland could win this one outright. I think. I was
going to say, looking like a money line play.
Yeah, I think people are going to be on Cincinnati in survivor pools. I would stay away from them completely. I love Cleveland here. What do you think?
No, I'm going to say I think Cleveland would be a good money line play in this game. I mean, let's see how things go through. Let's see what injuries come up. If Flacco gets the start, I'd feel comfortable with Cleveland.
Yeah.
If one of the others gets the start, I'd have to see who that is.
Yeah, Sanders. I wouldn't mind Sanders because he has real talent, but
he's an athlete. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll be out to prove something.
Yeah, I don't want this to be Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel, but if it's the other two, then I
don't mind Dylan Gabriel. He played for a high quality program. He played well a lot of games and all that. So I worry
about him just not being able to see over the line of scrimmage. He's like what, 5'10"? Like,
so Drew Brees wasn't very tall.
Yeah, that's true. But
now, of course, he may have also been playing against smaller defensive players back then.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But he had a pretty good career, and he could do things, with his feet. So
he was always on his toes. He had this unique delivery. Yeah. He made up for it. I don't know if Gabriel will. Who knows? I could be wrong about him.
Well, again, and he is a rookie starting it. He would be a rookie starting his first game.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We both prefer Flacco here. I think, especially week 1. All right, so Colts at the Dolphins. This is -1.5. I don't like either team. I think there is some potential with Daniel Jones. He has never had a fair shake, I think, with the Giants, just poorly coached. No receivers to speak of until Neighbors last year. Saquon Barkley was always in and out of the lineups. The blocking was always horrible. I think he's going to be in a better spot here. We don't know if he's going to play or when he's going to play. Yeah. It's going to be Richardson, who just hasn't shown anything yet in the NFL. He had 1 or 2 good games, but outside of that, he hasn't done anything.
And he took some time off for non-physical reasons.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So,
now maybe that's in the past, and maybe his teammates have forgiven him or whatever, and maybe we'll see this team will pull together, because I do know that Indianapolis is a team that is receiving a lot of buzz.
Okay, interesting. Dolphins, I don't like all. I think they have one of the worst rosters in the NFL.
And you don't like their coach.
Yeah, I hate their coach. Offensive line sucks. Their secondary, their starting cornerbacks are Storm Duck and Cam Smith. Like, who are they? Ashton Davis is one of the starting safeties. Their offensive line's in shambles. Their defensive line is atrocious. Tyreek Hill may call quits, or he might be in jail. Who knows? This team is a train wreck. I think I would lean toward the Colts.
Could the Dolphins be the Patriots of last year?
As like
bad record?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're in the running to have the worst record in the league. Yeah.
Or certainly in the conference.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the Colts are looking like the play here, but I really don't want to back Richardson. I wish if Daniel Jones beats out Richardson for the starting job, I think I would like the Colts quite a bit.
Well, again, we're 3.5 months away. What are we? May, so the middle of June,
Yeah.
July, August, 3.5 months away. A lot can change, and the other thing is there'll be 16 games played on in week one, as most weeks, other than when we have buys. I can see the Miami Indianapolis game being one of the games that'll be one of the most least attractive games to be playing, to making it. I don't know that you can make a strong case for either side. You could probably make better cases against each team, probably more cases against Miami than against the Colts. But I still think, on balance, there will be other games that you could feel much better about the team that you're going to be backing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, things could change, and like I said, hopefully it's Jones and not Richardson, but we'll see. All right, this is the last of the 1 o'clock games. Buccaneers at the Falcons. The Buccaneers are road favorites, -1.5. I was way off on this. I thought Atlanta would be a favorite, not minus.
Too.
Yeah, I thought they'd be like -2.5. So
a little bit under 3.
Yeah, I was 4 points off. Granted, no key numbers, but 4 points off. I think Atlanta and Tampa. I haven't released my power rankings yet, updated for the draft. They will be up soon. Probably tomorrow or Saturday. I have them right next to each other. I think I have Atlanta 1 spot ahead of Tampa. So I don't get this line. I think Atlanta's underrated.
I like Atlanta this year. No, I do like Atlanta this year, okay. And I have them winning the division. How much is Tampa Bay going to miss the coaches now in Jacksonville?
Yes, Liam Cohen. That's a big loss. Yeah. We'll see.
I mean, now of course they've gotten good quarterback play in Tampa Bay, which has been nice for them. But I remember having Tampa Bay the year that they won the Super Bowl with Brady, and I made this. I think I had Tampa at like 35-1, and I made the play before Brady announced that he was going to Tampa Bay. Largely because of the way the defense had played in the second half of the previous season. They had one of the best defenses, especially against the run. Well, that defense is getting a little bit older right now, and I think Atlanta, despite their inconsistent play, remember, Atlanta was a hot team last year, and they disappointed a lot of people, although they still had a chance late in the year, but they needed things to happen that didn't happen. I think Atlanta is one of those teams, and it's almost like the Chargers, who were better last year, and I had them for the wild card, and I think a lot of people like the Chargers, especially, and I think the word I probably said this 100 times during the season or preseason. They went from one of the worst coaches in the last 25 years to one of the best coaches in the last 25 years when the Chargers. So, and I think the Chargers did well last year. They came closer to achieving their expectations than Atlanta did. But I think Atlanta is going to be one of the hot teams this year that people are going to back, especially again because it's in a relatively weak division. How do you define divisions? How many teams in a division have the capability, the realistic capability, based on the roster, let's say, of making the playoffs, whether it be division winner or wild card? And I think it's very hard to find in the NFC South more than one team, whether it be Atlanta or Tampa Bay. I can't see many people thinking that with only 3 wild cards, one of them is going to go to the second place team in a division where 9 and 8 might win it.
Yeah, look, if you just take away the automatic playoff team from that division winner, if they changed the rules and said it's only going to be the top 7 teams in the conference, regardless of division, I would say it's 0. I mean, this is just a rotten division. But I'm glad to hear that you like the Falcons to win the division. I think they are like plus 250 or plus 230 to win the division, if I remember correctly. It was a nice number, I thought. So I think I might bet it.
I'll be interested to see what happens with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I assume he's gonna be traded. If I think if the Steelers don't sign Rodgers, I think they'll trade him to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it depends upon, and it's an interesting thing to consider. I think if Atlanta feels that they have a realistic chance at winning the division, making the playoffs, maybe you got to keep Kirk Cousins. If they think this is a year where we want to show improvement, if we get lucky, maybe we can contend, but it's not really yet our year. Although I would be surprised if they thought that way, because they do have some talent there, good tight end, good running game, etc. That they would keep Kirk Cousins, A, if Penix struggles, B, if Penix gets injured, C, and they sort of did it a little bit last year, what they didn't make the move. If they were in contention for the playoffs, maybe they bring Kirk Cousins in late, although they didn't last year, but their chances were really much slimmer than they really appear to be. They bring him in late because of experience. But I would keep Kirk Cousins if Atlanta. If I'm Atlanta, I keep Cousins if I believe the Falcons can contend.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering like who's their third string quarterback who would become the number 2 if they trade Cousins, and it's Easton Stick. So
Yeah.
I think you're onto something there. All right, 4 o'clock games. We have 4 of them. Titans at the Broncos. Broncos are -7. I think I was half a point shy of this line. I'm not surprised to see Denver as a big favorite. They have. I'm not a big Bo Nix fan, but they have a lot of talent on their team. The defensive lines, defense in general overall is great. Offensive line's really good. They maybe improve the running game. We'll see. But Cortland Sutton's really good. They added Evan Ingram. But here's the thing: Sean Payton. As we talk about Cincinnati struggling. Sean Payton has an atrocious week 1 and week 2 record as well. So that worries me. And then Tennessee, however, has a rookie quarterback starting against a very difficult defense. It's going to be tough for him. So I don't know where I'm going to fall in this game. I'm probably not going to bet it. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's another one that I sometimes I think +7 looks good with Tennessee because I expect that team to show improvement, but maybe not. Again, in the first game of the season with a rookie quarterback going up against a veteran coach, this could be one of those games where Denver wins, but it's like a 3 or 4 point game.
Yeah, is this your survivor early lean?
No,
pick? No, it's not. Okay,
I haven't really given a total thought of it yet. In those terms, because I haven't really broken down my numbers as far as what it says, but it certainly will be in consideration.
Okay, yeah, they're Denver and Washington are the 2 biggest favorites at -7. So, all right, so NFC West battle here. Niners are -1.5 at Seattle. I actually think I got this one right on the number when I guessed the lines. I like the Niners. I don't love the Niners. They lost a lot of talent, but I think they bounced back. They had a lot of injuries last year.
I think Seattle lost some talent, didn't they, as well?
They did. They lost DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
A huge loss there. Obviously, Geno Smith's not there anymore. Sam Darnold's the replacement. I don't like Darnold at all. Like, if Sam Darnold came with Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell, I'd be like, okay, he could do well. But like, he's going to have just Jackson Smith and Jigba and nothing else at receiver. And I don't trust Seattle's offensive line. So I like the Niners here, especially if McCaffrey plays. But we don't know if that's going to happen. What do you think about this game?
Well, if McCaffrey plays, 49ers could be a survivor pick.
Really?
I think the 49ers bounce back this year. Again, the situation with McCaffrey last year almost doomed them from the start, and it really never really got better, never really got realistic. Will they miss Deebo Samuel? Perhaps. I think that situation was festering a lot last year. Not that it necessarily would affect them on Sunday when they're thinking football, but they had a lot of things go wrong for them. I still like their defense. I still like some of their leadership. I still like guys like George Kittle, who could be a big play, come in and make the big play in a big play situation. And again, I do like their defense. And 4.5. Almost looks like they're tempting you to take Seattle, but I think San Francisco, knowing what they've done the last number of years as far as being a playoff and Super Bowl contender, if they start the season healthy, I like them in this game.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, glad to hear we're on the same page there. Lions at the Packers. Lions are -1.5 on the road here. I'm not a big fan of the Packers. I think they're going to be good, but I worry if Matthew Golden doesn't pan out, then they're going to have nothing downfield because Christian Watson's injured. But I really don't like the Lions this year, and it sounds like you feel the same way because they lost both coordinators.
They were the team in the NFC North when I said I was going to pick one team that was either going to be better or weaker, and I said Detroit is going to be weaker. And you just started to talk about it. Not only the coordinators, they lost a lot of that coaching staff that was so important to Campbell.
Exactly. So this is, I think, a rough spot, to prepare for the week 1 with 2 new coordinators. I like the Packers here. Home dog is very appealing to me. So
home dog on grass against a team that relishes playing on turf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Okay. Texans at the Rams. Next one. Rams are -2.5. I like this one quite a bit. The Rams are another one of those teams that
is that one of your 4 teams?
They are.
Okay. I like that. They're on my list too.
They actually. Well, I have to give you credit. You inspired me for the Rams because I had you on, I believe, one time after the Super Bowl to look at the Super Bowl 60 odds. First look at
Yeah.
those, and you said you love the Rams, and at the time there was some speculation that
We didn't know about Stafford.
Right, exactly. At the time, we didn't know if Stafford could be traded or something. Alec Jackson, their left tackle, is also a free agent. So I thought like maybe they'd fall apart if they traded Stafford or something. But they brought him back. They brought back their left tackle. Devontae Adams is there. Cooper Kupp was a disaster last year at the end. Adams is going to be such a big upgrade. Their young defense is going to be better. I love this team a lot. And in week one, you have Sean McVay, one of the best coaches in the NFL, preparing for week one. I love the Rams here at under minus.
This line looks a little bit too easy because I think also a lot of people when they start getting previewing week one, the Rams were the team that nearly could have. I'm not going to say should have, but could have knocked Philadelphia out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and they were playing in the snow, out of their element too. So,
and they pulled that upset. Remember during the wildfires when they had to play Minnesota in the wild card game in Arizona?
Yeah,
that's McVay, and they've been to the Super Bowl a few times.
Oh yeah, not too long ago. So
yeah.
I mean, this is a really.
What was it? They beat Cincinnati and they lost to the Patriots, and I think McVay was coaching both of those teams.
He was, yeah. I think this Rams team is underrated. I don't think people understand how good they are.
This line just looks suspiciously low.
Yeah, this is another team I bet to win the Super Bowl. I think I bet them at like 25-1, I want to say, and they've dropped to like 22-1 or 20-1. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Still a good bet because I think the Rams win the division, and I'm not so sure that they won't win it by 2 games over San Francisco. I think Arizona I think this is a 2-team race between the Rams and the 49ers.
I agree. I bet the Rams to win the division last year 4-1. Sadly, they're not 4-1 this year. I still think they take it though. What do you think about the Texans? I don't know.
I still like them.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think Stroud had the sophomore jinx or whatever you want to call it, and it was hard for him to match what he did the year before. But I think down the stretch he started to play a little bit better. And I think I think Houston has the best roster in what is, at least on paper, a relatively weak division. Although I think Jacksonville, again, as I mentioned, I think is a team that could challenge. Who I still think Houston deserves to be favored, but I would think that they should be getting at least 3 in this game.
Okay.
They got a defense.
Yeah, they do. They do. I worry about their offensive line, especially against a Rams team that can really bring pressure. Jared Verse gave the Eagles tackles some major issues. Like you talk about the Eagles having the best offensive line, they couldn't.
He'll be in conversation he could be in conversation defensive player of the year. They usually don't give it to that position, but he could be in the running.
He could, yeah. I mean, he was fantastic at the end of last year. He's only a rookie. If he could get by the Eagles tackles, he's going to devastate the Texans tackles who are just awful. Okay. Sunday Night Football. 2 more games to cover. Sunday Night Football. Ravens at the Bills. The Bills were 1.5-point underdogs at home last year in the playoffs. Now they're 1.5-point favorites. I don't know what to make this one. This is a game where I had some major problems handicapping this game. This is a revenge game for the Ravens. But I still rate the Bills as very, very slightly better than the Ravens. But
this is the kind of game I had no idea whether I was going to bet it, but I said if I can get 3 or more, I would take the underdog with no expectation of getting that line.
Exactly, yeah, but we're not getting that. I doubt, barring injury to one of the quarterbacks, I don't think we're going to get that.
If I could find a reason to play over the total, I might. I'm not sure. 51.5 is a reasonable number, and we really don't want to expect, because I think both teams have decent defenses, but I think if you do Buffalo's offense against Baltimore's defense, you give Buffalo offense the edge. If you give Baltimore's offense against the Buffalo defense, you give Baltimore's offense the edge. That's how good the offenses are, and the defenses are not bad as they may look in this game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough one to handicap, I think. So
yeah.
Maybe bet the money line at plus 104. Maybe that's what I would do. I don't think I'll touch this game. But there could be injuries and stuff that change the dynamics of it.
And if the game goes to pick 'em, I could tease both sides.
Yeah, that's true. Well, right now, I mean, Ravens plus 7.5 looks great on the teaser.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can keep it as an open teaser and don't have to fill the second half of it in, but I don't like going over 0.
Me neither.
With Buffalo.
Yeah.
Although plus 4.5 isn't terrible, but you're still giving up a number that, let's say, never comes into play, and that's 0, because so few games end in ties.
Yeah, I think this is Evan loves the 13-point teasers, the 13-point teasers. So getting this to Bills plus 11.5.
Now, how many teams are involved in those teasers?
4.
And what is it? Even money? Minus 110?
Yeah.
Or did they get a little plus? I have to think it's probably still minus a little bit.
I think it's minus 110. It might be minus 120. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we did really well with those last year. He introduced me to them, and like in the regular season, I don't think we lost once. So Bills plus 11.5 looks really good. Although I think I personally still rather be on the Ravens plus 14.5. Going over 14, which is
what are they up on the Ravens now to win the Super Bowl?
What do they have in the Ravens in the Super Bowl? It is right here, 7-1 on FanDuel. That's pretty much the number I've seen.
Yeah, I got them at 8-1 after when the odds first came out. I just like this Baltimore team very much. They've come close. They're probably second only to Buffalo as far as being able to get past Kansas City in recent years.
Yeah, I like them too. I didn't like them very much last year because their pass defense was so bad. But I think they did a good job of upgrading their secondary.
Addressing the issue, yeah.
Yeah, they signed Chidobe Awuzie and they drafted Malachi Starks in the first round. I think that's enough to really help them. And they didn't lose anyone on the offensive line. They could have. They didn't. Like Ronnie Stanley's a free agent. They didn't lose him. As long as Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, I think they're definitely one of the 3 teams that can get to the Super Bowl from the AFC. The last game we talked about this briefly. You said you like Chicago. Chicago's plus 1.5.
I think I don't remember if we talked about it after we started recording. I think we may have, but yes.
Yeah, we did.
And a lot of the reasons were McCarthy is basically a rookie quarterback going up an experienced second-year quarterback. You got the new coach in Chicago, who Ben Johnson, who knows Minnesota. For having played them and having designed offenses against what's a good Minnesota defense. I just think there are a lot of edges that Chicago has, especially considering what Chicago added, that for the first game of the season, maybe Minnesota by Thanksgiving will be the better team, but I think early in the season, I think Chicago has the advantages. We know what we've got with Chicago. We know that they're an improved team. We really don't know about McCarthy. He was a good college quarterback. I think he may have been drafted a little bit higher than perhaps he should have been. Michigan didn't win the title because of the passing of McCarthy. He was a good quarterback, but I don't think it was. Where was he rated amongst the quarterbacks in what was a good quarterback draft?
I think he was 4th or 5th. I think Nix was the 6th consensus wise. Okay. But it was either Penix and McCarthy or McCarthy Penix, depending on who you ask. Because you had the top 3 guys. You had Williams, Daniels, and May, and then you had the next 2 after that. It's like that. I think
he'll be a decent quarterback, and I like this Minnesota team. I think I told you before we were talking about earlier that I had both Minnesota and Chicago. I kept switching them as who's going to finish second in the division behind. I think I said Green Bay. And I ultimately went with Chicago because of the upside and the additions that they made to the roster after seeing, Williams had a decent year. Unfortunately, he was overshadowed by the guy who was picked right after him by a good margin.
Yeah, well, he also had 2 horrible moments, and they're very similar. The Thanksgiving game where he just had a brain fart and just didn't call timeout or didn't stop the clock, and then people blame
how much was that on the coach for not preparing him for that?
Sure, but 4 weeks later, the same thing happened. It's against Seattle on Thursday night. So I don't know. Like one is an accident, 2 is a trend. I don't know if it was.
I say 1 is an accident, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a trend.
Okay, fair
I give a little bit more leeway that you learn from the first time, but maybe not totally because they do something else happens. But after the second time, it does become apparent that something's not clicking.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe week 1 happens again, and then we'll be talking the Thursday after that. We're like, okay, 3 is definitely a trend here. Which is not like Williams. I will say this: one of my friends. He loves the Bears this year, and he bet the Bears to win the Super Bowl. And he says he loves the roster, and he thinks Caleb Williams is going to be a star. I countered with, I said this on the show before, there have only been 2 first-year head coaches to ever win the Super Bowl. Their quarterbacks were Joe Montana and Johnny Unitas. So if you think Caleb Williams is in that category, then
apparently he does.
Apparently he does.
Not because of that stat, but because of what you said about his fascination with the Bears.
Yeah, no,
and the statement that he thinks Williams is going to be. I guess what he's really saying is Williams will justify having been the number 1 pick.
I guess,
or at worst, a number 2 pick, considering what Jaden Daniels has done. And it remains to be seen if Daniels can repeat that. And a lot of people are expecting him to, especially since the roster around him is considered to be better than last year.
I'm in the category. I love the Redskins.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. Before we head out, who are your so you know my teams. Actually, we didn't talk about the 4th team, which is the obvious one in the NFC. We've mentioned the
Philly?
Vikings. Yeah, Philly. Yeah. So Vikings, Redskins, Rams, and Eagles for me in the NFC, and then the AFC, Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs. So that's my 3x4. Who is your? Do you know your?
I haven't fully decided. Other than I'm almost certain it'll be the Ravens. I know it's the Ravens. I'm pretty sure the Bills and the Chiefs will be there. Probably a little bit more sure about the Bills than the Chiefs, because I think the Chiefs are in a tougher division this year. Okay, yeah. I want to find a reason not to give up on Cincinnati, and that might be my quote unquote long shot of the teams. I really don't like too much of the other teams. I suppose I could go for Denver or the Chargers as well, but if I'm going to limit it to 4 right now, I'd probably say Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, and I'll throw the Bengals in there.
Okay.
However, I would reserve the right to change my pick on the Bengals after week 2.
Okay. What about the NFC?
Because of their history. NFC, I like the Eagles. I like the Rams.
Okay.
I'm undecided about the other ones. I do like Washington. That's probably my number 3 right now. My number 4. I want to take a closer look at Atlanta. I know I don't. San Francisco might be there, but I'm not as sold on them now as I was last year. But then again, let's see if how much I can get past what happened last year. So I would say right now, barring significant changes with injuries and things like that, I'd say that the Eagles and the Rams are 1-2 right now. I don't know if I will go with the Packers. I will need to do a little bit more work with that, and it could end up being maybe. I do expect Detroit to decline, but that's basically because of a lot of the intangibles with that team. Who they've lost coaching wise, etc. I haven't really looked into the fundamentals as far as what they had the capability of doing, and of course we missed the defensive end for a good part of the last part of the year, and it's still managed that Detroit still managed to play exceptionally well. So they're amongst the group. I think overall the AFC is a stronger conference overall at the top than the NFC. But I think at the same time the NFC is closer together. I don't know if, I guess you could say the Eagles are the class of the NFC, but then how do you separate whoever you put number 2, 3, and 4?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is very tight in the NFC. Like I think the AFC is obvious.
I think you can make more cases for more teams in the AFC making the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl than you can in the NFC, where I think it's a lot easier to eliminate teams.
Really, because for me in the AFC, it's just those 3 teams. I don't really see any other teams, like maybe the Chargers, maybe the Broncos, but to me it's Ravens, Bills, Chiefs are like way ahead of everyone else. Whereas in the NFC, like as the Eagles are number 1, but like you have the Rams, Redskins. I love the Vikings. You mentioned the Packers. Yeah. The Niners will be healthier this year, and they have a very easy schedule. And then
I can still make a case for Tampa Bay making the playoffs.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, obviously the bad division. Mike asking Lions lost both coordinators. Yeah, that's the factor there. Plus, I don't really trust Jared Goff in the playoffs. I just don't. I know he's gotten to the Super Bowl before, but I don't know, something about him. I don't know. There's not much confidence there for me. Mike also asking, Pete Carroll coached the Jets. I don't remember him coaching the Patriots. Yeah, he coached the Patriots. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. It wasn't. I don't think it was that long, but
just like people don't remember Belichick coaching the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Carroll, I think, was the coach right before Belichick in New England, if I remember correctly.
I believe he was there.
I can look
I
it up right
think
now.
that. Well, I'm trying to remember. Well, Belichick, I think, had that one day coach of the Jets, and then he resigned, I think, to go to New England.
Yeah,
And he may have replaced Pete Carroll, or there may have been a coach in between Carroll and Belichick.
yeah,
I'm
it
not
was.
sure.
So
Parcells? Was it Parcells, maybe?
Parcells coached the Patriots until '96, and then Pete Carroll coached the Patriots from '97 to '99, and then Belichick came in 2000.
Okay. Yeah. So then that was it. Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 years for Pete Carroll there. Okay, anything else, Andy, before we head out?
No, I think, what have we got? We've gotten almost 2 hours with no games being played this week. I think that's pretty good.
I think that's good too.
I think it shows how much we've both missed football and how much we have to say about it and how much we're looking forward to the start of the season.
It's too long. It's going to be slightly less than 4 months until we get real football. I can't wait. It's going to be a long.
I think the break between the Super Bowl and now was just about right.
I think so. Yeah, we have.
I needed the time off to sort of like revitalize recharge our batteries and everything, build up the enthusiasm, which is built up slowly. And I think, and I say it every year, once the schedule is announced, that's when I really start getting into preparing for the season. Team's road to the playoff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we knew who everybody was going to play. We knew where they were going to play, but we didn't know the sequencing. And the sequencing is so important because we can now take a look and say, "Ooh, these teams have a tough schedule. They might struggle early, which means they might be people may write them off, and then all of a sudden they get to the good part of their schedule, and they end up being the kind of teams we thought they were before they had to face the 4 best teams in the league in the month of September."
Yeah. We didn't know the spreads, and now we do. So we were able to talk about them, and we came up with some games we like already. So Andy, you run thelogicalapproach.com. Do you want to talk about that before you head out?
I'm starting to get better at putting up the daily starting pitching matchups for Major League Baseball now that we've got, we're about a quarter of the season and teams have played an average of 43 games. I'll throw a free selection up there, probably baseball most of the way, unless I see something worth talking about in the NHL or the NBA during the playoffs. Maybe even the WNBA, but that would probably be once the playoffs are over in the NBA and NHL, and I'm only limited to baseball and WNBA, so we'll see about that. I try to have everything up. I say 9 o'clock to have everything up for the starting pitching. Usually it's a little in a specific time, but usually it's a little bit closer to 10. Problem I have sometimes is there are so many instances now where pitchers are undecided in the overnights, and I have to really put everything together. I may end up deciding to just go, because I like to have as up-to-date information and as accurate information as possible, but I may end up having to decide that I'm just going to have to do it the night before, and maybe I have a good idea of who the pitcher is, and I'll put it in there, or maybe I'll just leave it. I think I call it undecided or opener.
Okay.
Or it could be bullpen, opener or bullpen, whatever they want to call it. I mean, we've seen many guys this year in baseball. On the overnights, they are listed as the starting pitcher. And then in the morning, someone else replaces him. He pitches an inning, and the guy who was listed as the starting pitcher comes in and pitches 3 or 4 innings, but they don't face the top of the order or whatever. Right. And I still, even though starting pitching has become less and less a factor in handicapping, most pitchers who make it to the major leagues and get chances to start 10 or more games will still average 5 to 6, sometimes more innings per start. So I often look at a lot of first 5 innings, but I still list pitchers because I'm expecting them to at least make it halfway through the game. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden when they change it, it becomes no action. A lot of people now, and even some books out here, I think it's the Westgate still, does not allow you to list pitchers anymore. It's action. They started that during COVID when there was so much uncertainty as to who was going to pitch once they resumed the the schedule in I think it was late July. And they just said, you know what? It's too much of a, we have to explain too much to a lot of the customers as to why they didn't cash their ticket because they listed a pitcher who ended up not pitching or not starting, I should say. Right. So I'm trying to make some changes on that. So as you can see, this haven't done it for a few days. Last play up there was Monday.
Okay.
I think it won. I don't remember, but Mondays when baseball's played so many games a day, Monday's ancient history now.
That's definitely true. Yeah. All right. So Andy, thanks for joining us once again. Glad to have you on the show. Glad that we had a lot of agreements here. I'm definitely encouraged by that.
I'm glad we had some agreements, some disagreements, and some no opinions. You don't want to have all agreements or all disagreements.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you agree with everything, it's a boring show. So you
Yeah.
definitely want to have some disagreements. But
If you agree on everything, it's boring. If you disagree on everything, these guys must hate each other.
that's
You
that's
know,
definitely true. That's definitely
they're
true.
always disagreeing. You know.
I once did a show like 4 or 5 years ago, and it might have been longer, but there's 16 game slate, and we agreed on the first 15 games, and then we got to the
Wow.
Monday night game, and we disagreed on that one. And it wasn't
I
a good.
remember
I went like 6-8-2 that week too.
I remember that. For the older listeners amongst us or viewers, both, 60 Minutes. When it
Mhm.
started back in the late 1960s, they had a segment. I think it was James Kilpatrick and Shana Alexander, and they would give commentary each other side by side, and they would always disagree. And it was very funny to watch. It was back in the days when things were a lot more innocent and everything, and it didn't take a lot to shock the audience with some of the words that you were able to use back then.
Yeah, it's like PTI where they
Yes,
disagree a
when they
lot.
disagree, even though they may agree, someone says, "I'll take the other side today." I
Yeah.
did that on a radio show once, and it was one of the best radio shows I did with one of the guys out here. We were arguing about, I think it was an LSU Alabama football game or something. Maybe it was a national championship game or something like that, and we were in vehement disagreement.
Yeah.
And I was new to the show, and the host felt, that, gee, I'm never going to get this guy on again. He's so vehemently against me and everything. And we go to commercial break, and he said, "It's okay. That's okay." I said, "Oh, I love your side. I just want it to be different. Made for great radio."
So
Just presenting the other, point counterpoint that
Right.
Because it was a national championship game, so he had one side that he loved very much. I liked the side, but I could make a case for the other side, and so I said, "Do it. Let's get into fun. It's fun to hear. It's fun to sort of prod unexpected arguments on radio."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, PTI. It's funny. I was I was talking to some girl back in college, and I was like, I'm watching.
This was at Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State. Yeah.
Year 1 or year 6?
Year 4, I think.
Okay.
That
was your first senior year.
My first, first of 3 senior years. I had a super senior year and a super duper senior year. But anyway.
Oh, you're talking about girls or academics? Oh, you're married right now. It was academics you're talking about.
Well, my wife's not watching this show. Let's be real.
Until word gets out, she's not.
I still don't think she'd watch it. She hates football that much. No. I was talking to some girl back then, and I was telling her I was watching PTI. She's like, "What's that?" I told her, I was like, "Yeah, just turn on ESPN. You could see what it's like."
What's ESPN?
Right, exactly. So she turned it on apparently, and like the next time I talked to her, she's like, "You know what? I love this show." I'm like, "You do?" She's like, "Yeah, I don't even like sports. I just like to hear 2 guys argue."
Especially over her.
Right, exactly.
No.
Slew asking, did Andy say who wins the NBA? I have Andy, by the way. I have Minnesota at 60-1 to win the title. Please give me some hope that you like them.
Oh, I do like them. Unfortunately, I also like Oklahoma City, but if I'm going to bet them right now, you'd have to bet Minnesota. Of course, Oklahoma City, well, I assume they wrapped it up tonight. I didn't see the final
score.
They lost? Okay. Because I know they were winning, and then they were losing, and then they were winning. So, yeah. So that's going 7 games, which is good for Minnesota, who will have a little bit of extra rest before the conference finals begin. I did think that the winner was going to come out of the West, although I thought Oklahoma City was the clear favorite going in. I think they may still be. But I also had respect for Denver, had respect for Minnesota, who I thought underachieved for most of the season, but played well late. Mm-hmm. And the other team that I thought had a chance and did what they normally do and flame out, and that was the Clippers.
Yeah, I'm hoping Denver wins Game 7 because Minnesota owns Denver. They've beaten them so many times. And I worry about the Thunder. I have taken out a small hedge on the Thunder, but it's not nearly enough. So I might.
The thing I like about Denver is their experience and the good players. Jokic is a good player, and Murray contributes, and a couple of the others contribute as well. Yeah. I'll tell you the team to keep the eye on, and that's Indiana.
Oh, see, I feel like a fool because Tom, our Saturday co-host, said last Saturday, he's like, "I love Indiana." I'm like, "Oh, come on, Indiana stinks." But no, they were impressive.
They played Boston last year in the Eastern Conference Final, surprised a lot of people.
Yeah,
and they handled Milwaukee, although Milwaukee was a little short-handed with Lillard missing. I think all but 1 game there when he got injured again, and Boston showed some vulnerability against the Knicks. I mean, I'll tell you what. Boston did something extremely hard, and that's blow a pair of 20-point leads at home
Yep.
and then blow a 14-point lead on the road. Knicks could have swept that series when you think about it.
I mean, yeah, well, the Celtics could have swept. You know,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. The Celtics could have swept the series.
Okay, yeah. They really could have him. Tatum towards Achilles. So that was the team I was worried about as well for Minnesota. And I mean, obviously now I wouldn't.
Well, they've got great. The Celtics have great depth. In fact, if you want them, well, I don't know what the odds are now. I just took a flyer on them that I don't expect to win. But you give me the defending champs with the kind of depth they had and playing now for their superstar, 30-1 the other day.
30-1. Okay, let's
down 3-1 now, 3-2. They're probably about 20-1 now.
14-1 on FanDuel. 14-1 FanDuel. I would encourage people to.
I would think you could probably get closer to 18 to 20-1.
Yeah. Minnesota's down to 5-1. I love my bet on them. I did bet Denver to win as well.
Let me take a look at. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the Denver series. Where is it right now as far as the current odds? Let me see.
Well,
let's see.
You're looking. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Knicks are okay. Knicks are still minus 270 in that range. Boston plus about 230, and well, I haven't seen the adjusted. Well, there's no adjusted price on Nuggets Thunders, whatever the money line is for Game 7. And right now, OKC is a 7.5-point home favorite. Don't know. And let me see what the money line is on that one right now. That is minus 275 to minus 300, plus about 230 to 240 on the Nuggets. And I'll tell you, I've done well in this series. I did not make a play on tonight's game because I didn't like the. I thought the number for OKC, the number for taking Denver was a little bit to take tonight, but I might take them getting the points against Oklahoma City because look, they put in a good effort in game 5, I guess it was, when they were getting 10.5 on the road. And that game, I think, was that the one that went to overtime or was tied late? And they ended up losing by 7, I think it was, but they covered the 10.5. And I think 7.5 is good. So I would think that this will be a competitive game. But I think I still prefer Oklahoma City. They were the best team record-wise over the course of the season. They were the most consistent team over the course of the season. I was not surprised that Denver, again, because they are a recent championship team and have talent, that they have not given I was not surprised that they have given OKC a struggle. I do expect OKC to win game 7, but I do like your position with Minnesota very much.
Yeah, tonight I had.
And you got a lot of hedging possibilities if you want to. A lot of leeway with 60-1.
Yeah, I had Oklahoma City tonight -3 in the first half. And they were up by 9 with 2 minutes to go in the first half. We got this. And, of course, Christian Brown hit a 3. And I'm like, oh, come on. We ended up pushing, unfortunately. So we didn't win. Real quick, I thought this is kind of weird. So Minnesota right now is 5-1 on FanDuel, right, to win the finals. However, I'm looking at the exact results. And Minnesota's 11-1 to beat the Pacers and 13-1 to beat the Knicks. Like, why wouldn't you just bet one of these two? Rather than the 5-1. And if you're concerned about the Celtics, they're 30-1 to beat the Celtics. Like, am I missing something here? Like, are they just mispricing these?
Well, what if the Celtics come back and beat the Knicks? And then in other words, you'd have to if you were to make the play. If you would have to make the play right now, you'd have to bet all 3.
Yeah, I mean, you could put like a very little bit on on this one.
Yeah, beating the Celtics.
And then bet most of your action here.
Yeah,
and I think that's the best way to do it.
What'd you say? 11-1 and 14-1.
13-1.
And 11-1.
11-1, 13-1, and 30-1.
Yeah, that's better than 5-1.
Yeah, I don't understand.
He has to win because there's only 3 teams that they can beat. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, and again, they still have to win the Eastern Conference Finals, but you're not betting that. You're betting them. They obviously have to win that, and that's why you're getting 5-1 instead of 10-1 because we already know that they've advanced to the conference finals. We just don't know if it's going to be against Boston or New York. So yeah, and it wouldn't take that much to I mean, you're talking about 30-1 to beat Boston, which is the long shot of the three teams to make it to the finals that are still playing. Well, I guess of the two teams that are still playing, because you know that Indiana's going to be one of the possible teams in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting better than 2-1 on Minnesota versus Boston than you are against Minnesota over Indiana or New York.
Yeah, I think this is just a misprice. I think they messed up here. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you guys still want to bet, Minnesota,
I was going to say what did you say the odds on Boston were down to now?
On here,
18-1,
14-1 here. We can look on DraftKings. Perhaps we have a better number there. Let's see. I don't know where it is here. It's somewhere. I'm not sure.
Should be futures, I guess, if they have it there.
Team futures. Yeah, team finals futures, winner. Yeah. There we go. Boston 18-1 on DraftKings. So better number there. Minnesota plus 450. So worst number here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Would you bet Boston 18-1? I know you bet them 30-1, as you said.
18-1. It still seems a little bit low because you have to factor in the absence of Tatum. Now, when I bet it at 30-1, Tatum was known to be out already. Mm-hmm. So they're basically making an adjustment. Boston winning one game at home, and still needing to win two more games to advance. I would think they should still be about 25-1. Because if they get past the Knicks, they still have to get by Indiana and then have to get by whoever comes out of the West.
Yeah,
I think 18-1 is a terrible price right now when you could have had 30-1 if they hadn't won one more game.
Yeah, I think it's a tough ask without Tatum.
You could almost make the case that maybe you don't even adjust the 30-1 all that much, because all they did was win a game at home. They still have to win 10 more games to win the title.
Yeah, I mean, winning in New York is going to be tough, and then they have to win another one, and then they have to beat the Pacers.
Yeah.
And then it gets even tougher in the championship against either Thunder.
And 30-1 probably was short odds. They probably were more like 45 or 50-1. But you got the championship pedigree, you got the depth, you got the fallen teammate and all that. Indiana gave them a battle last year, I guess, in the final. I forget exactly how long the series went, but I seem to remember some good games in there. And then they'd have to get by whoever wins the West. And I guess if it's Oklahoma City or Minnesota, and Boston face them, Boston has a huge experience edge even without Tatum. But if they make it to the finals, it means they would have gotten by Indiana without Tatum and the Knicks.
Right.
So
and they would still be underdogs. So you can maybe hedge there.
Yeah.
With hopefully Minnesota or Denver, because I have like I said, I have a small hedge in OKC, but maybe should add to that. But the odds aren't great. Maybe they'll be better after tonight, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The
thing is, you'd have to lay money. You'd have to lay a price with OKC at home.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm really, like I said, I'm really hoping for Denver, not only because I bet them, but because it's such a better matchup for Minnesota. They just can't. Denver can't defend Edwards, and Minnesota has the bigs to slow down Jokic a little bit. That's really helpful.
Didn't Denver? Didn't Denver beat them last year?
No, Minnesota beat them last year.
Minnesota beat. That's right. That was the first round. Then Minnesota lost the next round.
No, Minnesota went to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah, but I'm saying who did they lose to in the Western Conference?
Dallas.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. I knew one was Denver and one was Dallas that they lost to.
Yeah.
Because I think I had Minnesota over Denver. I really liked Minnesota last year.
Yeah, I love them this year.
From about the middle of the season, I liked them last year.
I said this on the show before. I think before going into the playoffs, I had them as the third best team in the NBA, behind OKC and Boston.
So you had them ahead of Cleveland.
Yeah, I didn't like Cleveland. I was very anti-Cleveland all year. I know they did great in the regular season, but I just thought they were a fraud. It's just no.
Well, they had good talent, but they actually took the second most 3-point attempts behind Boston, over 40 a game.
Yeah, but, like when it came down to it, like outside of Mitchell, like who do you trust to score?
Garland was a 20-point per game scorer, and he was missed in those first few games.
Yeah.
And the acquisition of Hunter was a nice acquisition as well, so it gave him some more options.
Yeah.
And of course, you had Mobley's presence, so they had good, they had good personnel. But again, it does show that the regular season is not always indicative of what you're going to see in the playoffs. But then again, Cleveland was never really healthy throughout that last series.
Yeah,
I don't know if it would have made a difference because I don't think people realize how good a team Indiana is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm guilty of that, but yeah, OKC, same thing. In the regular season, they were amazing, and now in the playoffs, like
they're being tested.
They're really disappointing here against Denver.
Yeah.
Like they keep blowing big leads. They're like Boston. They keep blowing leads like crazy. That's why I bet them in the first half tonight instead of the regular game because for some reason in the second half they just implode. I don't know why. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens Game 7. I'm rooting for Denver though, so
I'll root for you because I did not have a play.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. All right, I guess that's about it. We're almost at 2 hours somehow. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it.
By the way, I see this comment about after Denver lost Game 5,
you took
a flyer that's a good price because again, you're talking about a team that won the championship just a few years ago.
Yeah, and
again, there's a lot of that nucleus in there, and they're getting some great play from some KG veterans as well.
Yeah, no, their problem is that they have no depth, and I don't like their defense. But I mean, look, they have the best.
But they do have an advantage in the altitude. Although teams I think are a little bit easier, but again, they're used to playing in that altitude 45 games a year, including first round of the playoffs, as opposed to and you wonder how much they're going. I wonder how much, and there's probably been studies. I don't have the results handy, but when a team plays in Denver and then they stay in Denver and play 2 nights later. How does the altitude affect them? They've gotten used to the altitude, but also they've had to deal with breathing in that altitude for 72 hours, 48 hours, whatever. So
yeah, when I went out there, I had issues eating. I couldn't eat at all. Actually,
and I never had any issues when I was out there. Really? Maybe it was a mental thing because I told myself, "Oh, big deal. I'll just have to take shorter breaths."
my girlfriend, I used to date a girl who lived there and in Boulder, and when I went out there, I went out there for a week. And I came back. I lost 15 pounds in 1 week. I just couldn't eat. I could not eat. Like I ordered a cheeseburger at a restaurant. I went halfway through. I couldn't finish it.
Wow.
For some reason, like the altitude really got me. I don't know what happened, but
no, it does. It affects people differently. Yeah. And I say attitude, but it's not really. It's your body that's going to determine how you react.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe I assume I would have gotten used to it eventually, but I don't know. I was like, if I ever need to lose weight, maybe
you're just saving all your energy for the girl.
That's true. Well, I need more energy with the food. So maybe
there's just a limit.
Exactly. Sue says I figured my NBA question could stretch the show to 2 hours. Yes, we're 3 minutes and about 40 seconds shy of 2 hours. So I don't know if you wanted to spend the next 3 minutes talking about golf or something, or just wanted to sign off.
No, I think that we've exhausted a lot of things, and I'm almost forgetting what we talked about football.
I know. Yeah,
but that's the reason I can go back and watch the show again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm after the show. I'm going to be watching your Proline TV show.
All right.
Or show that you did with Jim Feist and Mark.
Well, the one we did yesterday, I think, was me, Jim, and Greg DePalma, who's affiliated with Our Lads. So he does a lot of work, especially with the college football, and the 3 of us did it. Mark Lawrence is absent for a few more weeks. He's busy putting together that great college and pro football preview that has all the point spread information and results and a lot of good situations that teams are in, good and bad situations. So he's taking some time off for another few weeks, and then there'll be at least the 4 of us.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, he's I love those previews. So. Yeah, and not surprised he needs some time off to make that. It's just a great publication.
Yeah.
All right, Andy. Once again, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone, thanks for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. We'll be back on Saturday with Tom. We with more NFL betting talk, and we usually get into the usual nonsense. We were talking about adult diapers last Saturday because the stupidity of people visiting Times Square on New Year's Eve and having to wear adult diapers because you can't go to the bathroom or you lose your spot. So that's we were talking about that. We were talking about other stuff. We'll be back on Saturday and then the usual schedule next week. So I hope you guys have a great start to your weekend. And I will talk to you later. And Andy, once again, thanks for coming on.
It's always a pleasure, Walt. I enjoyed so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.